8B. There's been a request to move item 9 to 5C, which would be consent agenda. Excuse me, under consent agenda, the next item, that would be the Horse Week proclamation. Chair will entertain a motion to adopt this unless there are further changes. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed likewise, motion carries. Consent agenda, item 5, A and B, any additions, deletions, or corrections?
No, sir.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to adopt.
So move.
Favor aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, motion carries. Item 5C, the proclamation. One of the nice times, folks, I get to stand up and not have things thrown at me. Yeah, careful. Oh, no, not you. Who's going to lead you? These ladies?
Jamie.
If you bear with me while I read. Whereas in 1918, Carter P. Brown, noted Michigan hotelier, hearing of the Tryon's natural beauty and friendly citizens, converted a lodge into the historical Pine Crest Inn. And whereas in 1925, Carter P. Brown founded the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club in the Tryon House to foster equestrian life in Tryon, laying the foundation for Tryon's thriving equestrian cultural tradition. And whereas in 1927, the Harmon Foundation granted the Tryon Chamber of Commerce the initial funds to build Harmon Field, which is now over 45 acres and owned by the town of Tryon. And whereas in 1928, the first Tryon was created by the Tryon tour makers as a billboard for Tryon Riding and Hunt Club events, and was paraded through downtown Tryon annually for horse shows. And whereas in 1929, Harmon Field was host to the Tryon Horse and Hound Show, eventually named the Tryon Horse Show, was composed of entries entirely from the Tryon area and the premier event of the Tryon Spring. The community event of horses, hounds, and free barbecue feast were symbols of the shows that stayed at Harmon Field until the 1980s. And whereas in 1985, Fence, or Foothills Equestrian Nature Center, came into being as a non-profit nature education and outdoor recreation center, built around an original contribution of 112 acres from the Mala family, who had come to Tryon in the 1920s, serving as the site for many local horse shows and the blockhouse steeplechase for 30 years. And whereas in 1992, the Tryon Business Beautification Association, now the Tryon Downtown Development Association, or TDDA, was formed to foster improvements, economic development, and promote downtown Tryon. And whereas April 13, 14, 2019 is Fence Horse Trails, and whereas April 18, 2019 marks the debut of TDDA's Tryon Horse Heritage Parade, featuring march, the Tryon Horse parading down Trade Street to a horse show and free local barbecue at Harmon Field. And whereas April 18, 2019 marks the return of Tryon Riding and Hunt Club's return to Harmon Field after nearly 35 years from the debut of the traditionally Tryon Horse Show. And now therefore be it resolved that I, J. Arnold Peoples, Mayor of the town of Tryon, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week from April 13 to April 21, 2019 to be the official Tryon Horse Heritage Week, in order to increase public awareness of the considerable equestrian heritage Tryon offers to its citizens and visitors, and to encourage their active participation in the week-long celebration of Tryon and its equestrian history. Adopted 16th day of April 2019, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my seal and cause the seal of the town of Tryon to be affixed at the Tryon Town Hall, North Carolina, the 16th day of April 2019. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6. Carolina Farms.
So, Mr. Mayor, what you have in front of you, you have basically we're going to receive a presentation. We've been working for the past couple of months with the Blue Ridge Adventure Guides, as well as the Carolina Climbers Coalition. They have identified some property that's perfect for a rock climbing park. We have met multiple times and we've listened and we've presented to you the idea, and we'd like to officially present the proposal. So if you don't mind, you guys want to come introduce yourselves?
Hi there. Esteemed commissioners and mayor, we'd like to present to you a presentation for potential use of the town of Tryon property, Melrose Mountain climbing management plan. I am Jonathan Gerst. I am one of the co-founders of the Blue Ridge Adventure Guides, which is a nonprofit outdoor service and adventure club that is working to work with the Polk County outdoor recreation folks for. Oh gosh, I'm a little nervous. Okay. Okay.
Let me tell you something, young man. I used to teach public speaking. Relax, nobody hits one bite.
Okay.
You got good info, let's have it.
All right.
We're all friends.
The Blue Ridge Adventure Guides was created to establish community within Polk County. Rutherford County has the Outdoor Coalition. Their ecotourism and rock climbing industry has benefited greatly from Rumbling Bald, and so we're going to try to do that for Polk County as well. Okay, Zach, can you skip to the next slide? We'll get to Mike's introduction in a little bit, but Mike is here with the Carolina Climbers Coalition. And so this is basically a lot of verbiage about Blue Ridge Adventure Guides. But we are working with the Polk County Outdoor Rec Department to establish climbing opportunities for youth, to establish climbing access for individuals that live within the county and western North Carolina at large, and even potentially extending into upstate South Carolina. The principles that we focus on as a group are leave no trace ethics, sustainable development of trails and routes, and most importantly, personal growth that can be achieved through the physical exercise and the challenging mental scenarios that arise when you're evaluating risk in the outdoor setting. Okay, next slide, Zach.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
could I please ask you to stand up?
Yes, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll let Mike with the Carolina Climbers Coalition introduce himself.
Yeah, I'm Mike Reardon with the Carolina Climbers Coalition. We're a 25-year-old nonprofit, 501c3. We cover climbing areas. Our mission is to protect, preserve, and enhance different climbing areas throughout North Carolina, South Carolina, and a little bit of Virginia. In building our mission, we try to open new areas to climbing, like the area that you guys have on your property right now. But in the past, and some of our recent achievements are up here, Buckeye Knob is a 60-acre boulder field in Vilas, North Carolina, that we just purchased 2 years ago. It was slated for logging, and we purchased it, opened it up to rock climbing, and built trails. In fact, we're breaking ground on a trail in just a week up there at Buckeye Knob. Rumbling Bald, we own 6 acres of boulder field that abuts the state park, and we work with the state park in order to maintain climbing access there for the public. Big Rock, South Carolina is just over the border in Pickens. We work with Natural Land Trust in order to open that up to public climbing, and we've been working on the trails there as well. It's a kind of a big facet of Carolina Climbers Coalition is stewardship. So we do steward the trails, the parking lots, and the cliffs as well that we hope to climb on. I won't go through all of those, but those are just a few examples, local examples of areas that we've opened up to the public in different ways. And we've worked with different townships, we've worked with the state park, we've worked with national forests, we've worked with private landowners, all of the above in order to open these areas up to legitimize climbing.
Okay, next slide. Okay, one of the critical things that the Carolina Climbers Coalition has helped the Blue Ridge Adventure Guides in the town of Tryon, and also the stakeholders. So far, you've been working with the local ranger station. Mike's going to pass out the climbing management plan, but it addresses issues such as liability, access, the North Carolina recreational user statute that provides liability protection, as well as, Mike, can you mention what's the name of the other liability protection covered?
The assumption of risk doctrine?
Yes. That and the one that is the dummy-proof one, getting the community together to have peer review in order to establish safe climbing for public use. That's one of the main goals that we're trying to bring to you all today. So this is, we'll show the property outline in a second, but this is just a general overview that shows a couple of parking areas. There's actually an unshown parking area here that's on private property that we've been given access to by Charlie, who owns a piece of basically a spring head up there. And he said we should feel free to put 20 cars there. Now, establishing that in writing and creating an easement is something to happen down the line. But these parking areas shown here are actually on the town of Tryon property, and these gray lines are the cliffs, and these gray circles are the boulders, to illustrate that there's a good bit of rock out there that's really has some pretty good climbing on it. Next slide. Okay, so in an effort to bring everybody together, we actually in May came together for a stakeholder meeting in which we wanted to get feedback from all these potential partners to address access issues, safety, rescue, viability, partnership education components. And the feedback at the stakeholder meeting, while it was somewhat low in attendance, was overwhelmingly positive, so that's good. And next slide. Okay, so here's the property outline. This is Hogback Mountain Road that's coming up the northern property boundary. This yellow line is the North Carolina-South Carolina border. This is also a town of Tryon property that connects to the Blue Wall Preserve to the south. We're just looking at the town of Tryon property that's in North Carolina. These are those potential parking areas that I've shown, and these red lines illustrate the outline of the cliff. So there's about a 900-foot long exposure of rock here and about a 500-foot long exposure of rock here. Next slide. To zoom in on the western cliff, the potential parking area on the town of Tryon property is located on the shoulder. It's quite a wide shoulder, but then this is you can see the tent space that says parking private authorization that's on the private lot. But today, in anticipation of this event, we had 4 cars up there easily, with room to spare. This is a climber's path that has been flagged with pink flagging, just initial clearing to make it more visible for safe access, and also to make sure that people aren't just going straight down the hill and causing erosion issues. And then that access is the top cliff, and we'll get to some photos there. Next slide. Okay, this is the eastern cliff access. One of the benefits to the town of Tryon with partnering with Blue Ridge Adventure Guides and the Carolina Climbers Coalition is that we bring a strong volunteer force to trail work. And so even if you're not a climber and you have no plans to be a climber, this can have appeal to you as well, because to get down this slope, or even at the western cliff, there's a couple of areas that could serve as a pedestrian-friendly access for a family to go out, take a picnic, have a view of the Blue Wall Preserve looking off of the escarpment. It's would be a very appealing park to visit, even if you're an out-of-towner. Perhaps. One thing to consider though is that the terrain is steep. Once you get past this kind of saddle right here, you can see this topography line bends out. There's a bit of a saddle. Once you start getting into this red line, this is currently a climber's path. To make it into a pedestrian foot trail would require some significant volunteer assistance and grants. However, the Carolina Climbers Coalition has experience with securing funding for trail work. So in addition to what the town may be able to offer up and other funding sources that the Blue Ridge Adventure Guides has identified, such as the Polk Community Foundation, or there's a few other ones like the Access Fund is another climbing organization. As far as long-term planning, there's a potential for the pedestrian trail to do a nice loop trail. Next slide. This is just zeroing in on the parking that's above that eastern cliff. It is more limited. Essentially, the eastern cliff is longer to hike to. It's more challenging climbing. It's a smaller parking area. But because it's longer to hike to and it's more challenging, we don't expect as many climbers to go there. So a smaller parking area with this size shoulder that's already existing should be sufficient for potential demand on that section of the property. Next slide. Okay, so getting into a few details, you can actually see the cliff as you're driving down Dug Hill Road. If you're driving from the western side of Lake Lanier, you leave Dug Hill Road past the Blue Wall Preserve on your left. You get to the middle of Dug Hill, there's a Baptist church, and you can look up on the hill and see this cliff exposure. What really establishes and holds up the cliff from a geological perspective is that this is a meta-sedimentary rock. So as opposed to Rolling Bald, which is a metamorphic granite, the origin of before metamorphosis is an igneous rock, something that came from mantle. This is actually sedimentary rock that has fallen into a trench somewhere, then been squashed and metamorphosed. So the more competent sections of the cliff are near the top. Basically, there's more silica content in the upper section of the cliff that holds up the cap better. It's more weather resistant. So it creates some very steep overhanging roofs, which are a unique style of climbing for this area. Okay, next slide. All right, here are just a few photos. This is looking up at some of the overhangs. This is a rope hanging down vertical. Gravity's pulling it down, so the camera's just laying up right next to the rope, hanging vertically, and you can see the extent of the climb. This is actually it looks pretty overhanging and difficult, but the holes are so large that this is within range of an intermediate climber. You can also see some of the boulders that have nice flat landings. There's some cool features in a climbing terminology. This corner here is called an arête. It requires a lot of unique balance, and it's a fun problem-solving type of climbing. Next slide. Has a beautiful view. So I mean, you're gonna, if this is approved, what it does is it establishes the climbing management plan so that for long-term sustainability planning, we've got partners that are knowledgeable of what's happening, not turning a blind eye to it, because what we want to do is anticipate the demand that this could have. I mean, it's already, the word's already out, so to speak. So if we are prepared through volunteerism, through conservation ethics, and through the right organizations that are geared to getting the grant funding for kiosks, for trail work, for erosion control, then we have the potential to make it into something that not just climbers, can see the beauty in. This is one of my favorite routes out here. This is called Burlington Bare Knuckles. This is really fun. You can't quite tell how overhanging it is, but it's a great challenge. One that I foresee there will be lots of climbers that are going to be like, see that in a photo and be like, oh my gosh, I need to stop in Tryon and spend my tourism dollars on, because it's worth stopping in to see this. Next slide. Just a few more slides of climbers. These were taken today in anticipation of the meeting. This is at the Western Cliff. Very competent rock. Very clean already, doesn't require significant devegetation, does not require impact to sensitive plants and animals, because we're not in the Pacolet River Gorge. This is a south-facing cliff with sun on it all the time. It's not in a dark corner where you've got moisture that's just never leaving. So it's kind of nice in that aspect. There's not too many places around in Polk County where you can get the type of climbing that doesn't require, unnecessary impact to the sensitive plants and animals out there. Next slide. Okay, so we've gone over this a little bit, but what Carolina Climbers Coalition and the Blue Ridge Adventure Guides offer the town are volunteer support for trail work, for preparing the presentation, for preparing the climbing management plan, and then providing regular cooperation and planning for EMS fire services. Basically, just providing a knowledge resource to what's out there, so that, as this property becomes utilized, that it is done in a way that is safe and sustainable. So, as you get to, I know that you don't plan to make any decisions tonight, and that you'll review, hopefully through the proposal that we've prepared, but you'll see that it addresses monitoring and maintenance, the liability piece, and actually now we'll get to a point that you might resonate with the most, just as far as trying to manage a town, make sure that you're doing something that's right for the town. So if you wouldn't mind skipping to the next slide, we can get to the money part. Okay, I'm going to let Mike kind of get into this, because these are a lot of the CCC's facts and the research that they've performed.
Yeah, and there have been several economic impact studies on what rock climbing does for local communities. One recent one was in Pisgah-Nantahala National Forest, and we looked at what kind of money did rock climbing bring in as far as tourism, as far as people that wanted to come here, and the direct impact was $13.9 million overall, and that was through the climbing in Nantahala and Pisgah National Forest. Direct impact is money going directly to the town. Indirect is, well, since money's going to the town, they can then hire somebody else and so on. So this is just direct impact. I'm not going to go through all of that stuff. So I'm going to the next slide.
Can I just go back? The main thing is that the demographic for climbers, I mean, we're not talking about people that are going to come throw a bunch of beer bottles and spray paint the cliffs. We're talking about the people that are going to get I think it's called elephant snot. It's basically the stuff that gets the spray paint off the cliffs. The trail work also, includes picking up all the beer bottles, and
luckily out here there's nothing out there.
Yeah, luckily out here there aren't any beer bottles. Yeah, this seems like a relatively untapped resource.
Yeah, we see that a lot in different cliffs that they get trashed because they're not public areas. Once they become public, then we can clean them up. But yeah, 47.9% of climbers possess a 4-year degree. So just trying to give you a sense of who will be coming to your town to visit if you have a climbing destination in your backyard.
Okay.
You can go to the next one. So in both the Red River Gorge in Kentucky and also in Chattanooga, they did economic studies, just like the one in Biscayne National Forest, and realized that that it brought in a lot of money for the different specific towns. The one in the Red River Gorge in Kentucky, it was done in Oslo County, which was the poorest, or the third poorest county in the nation, and it brought in $3.8 million per year for that county. And that's just to give an example. So skipping forward a little bit, can a climbing route be a monetized asset? So can we look at a climbing route as far as what will that bring into the town? And this is definitely a little bit extrapolating off the numbers from Chattanooga, but just to give you a sense, the Chattanooga climbing area has about 2,000 climbing routes that are open to the public and year-round. And those brought in $6.4 million of direct impact to the town of Chattanooga as far as the tourism in Chattanooga. So that's, if you do the quick math there, it's $3,200 per year per publicly open climbing route for the town of Chattanooga, if you end up kind of pulling those numbers from there. For the sake of this resource that's up that you all own, it probably has 40 to 50 climbing routes, and then it probably has maybe another 50 to 60 what's called boulder problems, and that photograph there is a boulder problem, meaning somebody has a pad underneath them and they top out a boulder, whereas a climbing route is too tall for that, and you use ropes and you use bolts or gear to protect yourself. But yeah, that's economic impacts.
Okay.
Next.
So that's it for our presentation. But the the climbing management plan is intended to address a lot of your questions. But if there's other questions that you have, then certainly we want to be available and provide you with answers that are based in one of the other partnering organizations that unfortunately couldn't be here tonight is the Access Fund. That's a nationwide fund that has purchased properties for access to cliffs to provide climbing resource. They have provided us with a list of over 100 municipalities that have worked with a local climbing organization to establish a local cliff as a recreational opportunity. So fortunately, you wouldn't need to be blazing a new trail because there's a lot of folks that have done it before. It's a cool resource that Tryon has, and what better way to make it available to people than through a community of people that are working together to make sure that the routes that go up are safe, because we're working through peer review and a lot of people are putting their heads on it.
And
Thank you.
to add to what was said tonight, when we held the stakeholder meeting a month or so ago, we also had in attendance the Forest Service of North Carolina, as well as Polk County Parks and Rec. Polk County Parks and Rec is making a push to do more rock climbing. They're working to schedule something out to hopefully utilize what we have existing at Harmon Field, and the idea was even thrown out, once kids kind of graduate through that program of learning, they can take a field trip up to this property, if this property is in working order and allowed, to extend that experience to the children. On top of that, the Forest Service is involved. They're willing to help with their bridge crews. Obviously, they have a ton of volunteers that are willing to help. The fire department's already done the emergency management aspect and basically found out what they need to do and when they need to do it. Those plans do change slightly based on how the path is put in. But we have had the discussions. They've been a great group of people to work with, and they truly care about what's going on out there. I've done the research with the back end on the deeds, so this isn't in the watershed that we could find, and it's 200 acres that we're not using now. So we're presenting this to you, and if you have any questions, please feel free.
So, I have two questions for you, Zach. What is the total size of contiguous acreage that we're talking about?
On this parcel, it's around 220.
What is contiguous to that, owned by?
There would
Town of
probably
Tryon?
be, yeah, there'd be another 600, I believe, to be added.
The last question, and it might be for Alan. There are no covenants?
No.
on This 200?
Yeah, this 220 acres, to put into perspective for people in the audience, when I went to search for the deed is so old that they do not even keep it online. They had to go and find the paperwork, which was handwritten from long times ago. And what I found was basically 220 acres, which is what we have.
Okay, the next question I have, is that contiguous to watershed rights that we sold?
That's what I'm really.
I thought that's what you were asking. Is it contiguous to that at all?
I can check on that. I know that we have watershed rights that we sold to Greenville County years ago. I'm not quite sure if it's not on this property, I'll say that. It may
Well,
be
I
on the
understand,
property
but I
next
just
to
wonder if
it.
it were contiguous, we need to make sure we have separation there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is separated. I mean,
Maybe I missed something, council, I didn't see any downsides, did y'all? Something may show up, but I haven't seen a downside yet.
May I add one more thing? Conserving Carolina was also present at the stakeholder meeting, and they said that they would really like to be able to use the town property as an educational piece as well for environmental education.
You want to take citizen comments? Audience comment?
So a lot of people came here tonight as to support the proposed climbing project. So if you are a local individual that likes to rock climb and think that this would benefit you, then please say aye.
Okay, and the question was, do any of you in the audience have any questions of us or this group? Outside of their group? Yes, I can't do is that.
Audrey Conway.
Hey, Audrey.
I have a question. You mentioned earlier about the possibility of a trail for walkers. How committed are you to making that happen? Because we walk here in Tryon. We have hills and we have mountains, and we're very familiar with that. It will be more usable for us not to have climbing trails, but possibly walking trails. How dedicated will you all be to getting that done? And what will be your priority?
The priority at this point is to finalize climbing access. The next step, the timeline, we might have skipped over a timeline slide, but it addresses the establishment of the basically approval of the climbing management plan, and then over the next 2 years, it lays out a time frame for the pieces that basically securing access, putting up a kiosk, laying out the trail work, getting trail approval, working with the stakeholders to put that in, so that it is not just a climber resource, but a public way. So yes, very committed. In short, I have children of my own that, the appeal here is that we can create a resource for generations to come. And for that to be possible, it can't just be something that's only available to elite athletic individuals. It needs to be available to the children, it needs to be available to the elderly, so that it can be done in a way that, at least if an older person can't climb, if you're still hiking around in your 70s though, and you want to go out to a picnic table and see a good view, this is your spot. It's not that far of a hike, and it's a beautiful view.
So the gist is you would have this done in roughly 2 years. Okay.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question on
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Okay.
I love you out here, so maybe at the next meeting we'll give you the green light.
Any comments?
I pitched it out to some of the people I work with, you know, I work in South Carolina, but these people love everything about Tryon, and they were just ecstatic about the idea of having that.
Of course they do.
Yeah, I mean, they come to Tryon, they was like, I was in Tryon, I was like, I was too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else, sir?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
would you like to take 5 minutes to reset this, what we have
Actually, I
here?
would. We'll
Okay,
take a 5-minute recess.
perfect.
Get straightened up. We'll be our 50 seconds.
Thank you very much.
Ready? Back, go. Item 7, ABC Control Resolution. Back.
We've prepared a resolution on your behalf, if you approve it, that discusses your support of keeping the ABC held in a local form. So it's the current control system allows for the state to control the alcohol, and there have been rumors that they would like to privatize it, so this is just a preemptive resolution for your support that we will send on behalf of you, as well as the Tryon ABC Board, if you approve.
A question as we're doing this. Did the other proposal die when they were talking about forcing consolidation of ABC stores?
It has not moved
It
at
did
all.
not move out of committee?
Not yet.
Okay.
Hasn't moved anywhere.
I move with the resolution.
Yep.
Sir?
At that point, we approve the resolution.
Yeah, Chair will entertain a motion to adopt the resolution presented by the manager.
So moved.
All those in favor, aye? Opposed, likewise, motion carries. Item 8, Zach.
You have in front of you the PIMCO brochures. What we had discussed previously was for you to choose some form of lighting which we will place at the Nina Simone Plaza as an initial start. And if we decide to continue down the street to replace the current lights, it will be used in this fashion. So,
Chair will entertain a motion. You.
I have a couple of circles here. It doesn't show the poles or anything, but it's just the fixture itself. They're very similar to what we have out here. It's called Bristol and one's called Coronado.
okay, so would you like me to?
Would you, or do you know, are they the same price or are they different prices?
They are different prices. So all the different combinations are different prices.
Do you have tonight a price list?
No, that would be, we would have to present what we want to get it closed on the price.
And so you're going to do new aluminum, gold, and whatever extra.
Yeah, I'll do whatever the board wants.
Here's the question. We've talked about this. One of these two fixtures and the poles that are here,
Yes,
the type that are out here, as close as you can match them.
yes.
Closest you can match to that, still with the bar so that we can hang banners.
Yes.
LED,
I'd love LED and that fixture, if possible, to go on our existing light poles that we have.
Yeah, if one's compatible and one's not, then go with the compatible.
Yeah.
so,
I mean, usually it's 3-inch collar, and most of these should be 3-inch collars.
But here's the problem he's presented earlier and it started. The kind we have don't make anymore. So when we have one to break, there's no way to replace it.
I know.
Well, if
You replace the pole if somebody
then
runs into it, but these things are good for decades, until somebody hits them.
Well, we can.
And they're
we can just-
expensive to replace. You gotta
Yeah.
bring in a contractor, tear up the sidewalk, pull the thing out, rewire it, put a new one in.
And we can return to that conversation, but we do need to replace the one at Nina. So,
Good. Well,
And I'd go with aluminum post, similar to the one
as
that.
close as we can get to that,
Yes.
LED surrounding, sconce or whatever, sky friendly if possible, and something that if can, just straight up replaces what we have. I'll do my best to find that, and I will email that to you.
Got it covered. But
And while we're talking about this, if we take up poles, the Depot Plaza is already wired for lamps. All of it is sitting right there. Could we transfer, I think it's 6 poles
Yeah,
to the Depot Plaza?
the goal, and we talked to Jamie about this, is if we do go throughout the process and replace everything down the street, we save everything, Depot gets its lights, and then we can expand throughout Palmer and Howard.
Item 8, discussing the work session paving, Carson and Cleveland. Zach, if you give us those 2 up-twos again, please.
So you discussed the previous budget high plus 10%. For Cleveland, I believe that would be $45.1 thousand. And then for Carson, that would be $72.6 thousand.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. And before we vote, we will have one recusal because he owns some property off of one of those streets, at which point he may make a profit. So I've got that legal question. You can recuse yourself. Okay. Chairman, entertain a motion to adopt those 2.
Cleveland at $45.1 thousand. Just do them separately.
Okay.
Do them separate.
Right.
Yeah.
All in favor, aye? Opposed, likewise, motion carries.
Carson at $72.6 thousand.
All in favor, aye? All opposed, likewise, motion carries. Okay.
Wait, we're going on. Didn't we agree to bump into the next fiscal year?
Yeah, the proposal was to do hardback next. Is that what you proposed?
Yes.
And you agreed to?
Yes,
The hog back Carolina then deal.
yes. Okay. And we've authorized it, didn't we?
Yeah, we talked about what we've
Wait,
authorized.
let me ask a question. Can we authorize next year's budget out of here yet?
No, but you can establish what your priorities are.
Okay, that's what I thought. We've established the priority. Okay. Thank you. Okay, item 10, TDVA update.
As y'all know, it's Tryon Horse Heritage Week right now. I do want to thank Commissioner Kroll especially for helping us sell hot dogs on Saturday for our kickoff party, and to the town for helping to pay for the band that we had. We got a fist bump there. There you go. Also, Zach, Tank, and Commissioner Kroll for helping us move around Morris, the parade Morris we got. He is still getting painted, but he will be ready on Thursday. On May 14th, we have our Main Street Regional Meeting, and we're hosting that. So we'll be hosting our downtown directors in this area and doing a tour of some of the, I do a whole tour of downtown for it, but I want to focus on the Missile Nines project because the last time they were here was before it started construction, so they'll be able to see a lot of changes. This Thursday is the Horse Heritage Parade, starting at 5. We've got about 15 entries, and I think we'll have probably about 20, 25 horses, so that'll be fun. The Friday after is the 4th Friday, and it's the guys' night out. The girls' night out was a big success from what I hear. I was out of town that day, but everyone said it was a big crowd, businesses looked good. We ordered flowers from the Polk County High School FFA to redo our boxes. And just today I submitted a grant, a short-term grant for AARP to do some of the hand railings on Oak and Maple Street where it's a little bit more difficult to walk, and to add some additional seating and maybe even some water fountains there. I'll find out if we get that in the next couple of months. And also, in the North Carolina governor's budget, we know that there's some money specified for downtown in it, and I think that's probably going to be specified towards the street lights, so that's very fitting with the time that we're working on now. We've been working on some letters to send to our representatives about that, to please support that in the budget, and also isothermal, IPDC has helped us by sending some letters too. And I just hope y'all come out to the parade and then the barbecue following at Harmon Field and horse show this weekend. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Item 11, Town Manager's Report.
We had an 8-inch water line, main line on 176 that was repaired. They laid 12 tons of asphalt this month in terms of potholes. They've done their standard brush removal. They did help with Easter preparations at Harmon Field. We had the town hall facade repaired out front. We met with DOT regarding the recent 176 project, 108.
Are you talking about all the broken asphalt going down the hill?
Yeah. Met with Duke Power regarding the fiber line through downtown. Quick update on that. Touched base with them this week, and they are projecting to start next week on Monday. We obviously helped Jamie transport the parade Morris. We've been working with the engineer regarding the CIP and its implementation. We held a grand opening for Harmon Field Playground with the appearance by Harry Delaire Foundation to present the large check. We did discuss the interconnect project with Saluda. Only 2 RFQs were received. Advertising should begin soon to attempt to receive a 3rd RFQ. Sidewalk repairs has been around Markham Road behind White Oak, as well as recently, I believe we updated you on the area around the school, as well as the church on Packlet. We are looking to start repairs on at the corner of Grady and Howard. That box that's there, we're looking to repair that. We actually, last month it was discussed about the sidewalk committee. We checked our emails through Paula. We don't have any files, but we went ahead and did our own. We drove around and did an assessment of all the streets, so I have a list of that I'm working on to send out to you. Obviously, we've got the lighting options for the board. We've done the basic inspections. We've held multiple meetings on the Packlet River Restoration Project. We helped prep for the tailgate party. We assisted officers in canvassing of Woodland Park, and we met with Thermal Belt regarding citizen assistance, prepped to man the streets for the race to the head of the class, assisted with the East Side cleanup. We did host the first Melrose Neighborhood Watch Committee, and as an update to that, we still have materials, so if any neighborhood in town wants access to that, we can get that to them as well. We did award Jody Morris with a plaque for his 30 years with the town of Tryon. I believe March 31st was 30 years for him being here. So if you see him, please congratulate him. We still have a bunch to do. I'm meeting with Paul Mills tomorrow. I'm meeting with Austin Hyder this week as well. Water at the cemetery and water out here. We'd like to put a standpipe in for the garden club. Still hand reading meters. I did get in touch with the both on the contractors. The one at Rogers Park is still on time. He did not get a chance to get out here this week. He still says he will be done by the first week of May. The fabric is being shipped from California as we speak. We're still planning the retreat, we're still doing leaf removal, and we're reviewing the strategic plan. You have an entire list of things, which is the punch list for the Packwood River Restoration Project. I'll allow that to just be visualized. If anyone wants a copy, we can get that to you as well. But I did want to obviously thank Jody for his many years of service to the town. We're really grateful to have him. And then I also want to thank the fans of Harmon Field for the Easter egg hunt. And it looked like it was a big success. So, is there any questions in me?
A couple of questions. Very quickly, could you please review, or have Mr. Daniels review, the timeline for the Melrose Inn?
Well, she received her letter on March 15th, and she had 60 days to basically do whatever it means or whatever to get that site cleaned up. I am going to follow up with her this week to see what her status is. She was going to remove a bunch of vegetation after that last freeze we had, and then she said upon completion of that, then she did have somebody that was going to come in and start separating anything salvageable, like metals, wood, anything material-wise. So I would assume that would have been underway. So like I said, I've been out of town for about a week and a half in training. So I'm just kind of playing catch up now, but I am going to follow up with her this week. I mean, she basically has until May 15th, so, and I'll see what her deal is.
Then from May 15th, then how much, can we start right away, or do we have another legal process to go through?
We just basically do the ordinance we have to do the ordinance and register it, and then we can just start setting up demolition, so
That'll require the board to take action again,
Yeah.
to authorize him by way of an ordinance. Not like an ordinance that lives in the town code, but an ordinance as an action to direct him to.
Like we did at the previous home. So what you're looking at is the June council meeting will be June 18th. So roughly around June 15th, I'm assuming it is around that time. That month we'll present to you the ordinance if things aren't fixed, and then from there it's...
it runs out on May 16th. We have a meeting on the 21st. Can we not authorize them at that point? I mean, we're getting into the mosquito season.
Sure.
And I'm telling you, once the rains and the heat, it's going to be unbearable on that end of town with the amount of standing water. I've walked the property and there's tons of standing water. Either we pay a contractor to spray, or we just clean it up. I say we start cleaning it up.
We can have that ordinance drafted. Yeah, it'll be on May 21st, right?
Yes.
So it'll be there.
So there's no other time that we have to wait after that 15th?
Once that 15th is done, it just kicks in.
We've already got one quote, if not two.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the second one.
Yeah.
What is the first one?
Right out of 100.
Yeah, it was over 100,000.
And we will have to pay half of that up front as a deposit on the work, and then half when it's complete.
So, also, before we get into the thing that me and William discussed earlier, Tim passed the CBO course, so he will be getting certified officially for that, which is pretty good on the first shot. And we need to...
I just want to give the board a quick update on the work on the ordinance related to parking. The planning board had a great discussion about that last week, and actually continued their meeting until this Tuesday. That's right, Susan, right? It's Tuesday. At the conclusion of that meeting, I expect that there will be a recommendation on some changes that would then be right to come before this board. Before that could become enacted as part of the town code, there would have to be a public hearing, and I believe that the schedule that we set forth in the moratorium ordinance said we were shooting for May 21st. It looks like we'll hit that, and that's plenty of time before the expiration of that ordinance we discussed at the special meeting. So I'd like for the board to consider just affirmatively moving and setting that as a public hearing for May 21st on potential zoning ordinance amendments to Article 4, Section 4.8, parking and loading requirements, off-street parking and loading requirements.
That's two.
Chair, will entertain a motion.
So moved.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, likewise, motion carries.
That's all
Next item. What is the present status of the discussion with the state concerning the Harmon Field Middle School building?
Currently, we're working with someone who wants to lease the building, and I have sent an email asking to review some things. The person interested has asked to be able to contact Part F and discuss it with them. So, because they don't want to waste their time, basically. So, but I'll make contact with them this week and get an update, but nothing's really changed.
A potential buyer is
No.
wanting
No, not a buyer, no.
a leaser
Right.
wants to have a conversation with a state official concerning a property that we own.
So, the potential leaser wants to discuss what they can and can't do with the property through Part F.
To not violate the grant.
Right.
In terms of the
Yeah,
grant.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I can,
They just cut the middleman out and going straight to the horse's mouth.
I don't know how that's done in state government. I certainly understand how there can be a conference call
right,
with all parties represented, but I don't see any possible legal way for a third party entity to have a representative conversation with the state of North Carolina on behalf of some possible future endeavor. I do not feel good about this at all. I think you need to be a part of that conversation. That's merely my opinion.
right. I'm a part of the conversation separately, I guess. I mean, you know, I'll touch base with them and respond to you.
It sounds like they just want a question, right? I mean, I don't think they're,
Well, if you look at government in general, sorry. I mean, not at our level, but that's what people see. They see us the same way they see the other manipulators.
Well, mostly questions revolving around what I sent you, basically, with the clauses, stuff like that. Just questions. But I'll touch base.
And the last thing, we have already allotted monies for the cemetery water line
Right.
in this budget.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, item 12, Council Mayor Tryon, Bill Fuller, Chris, Terrell, Bill, and me.
I get to go first. Well, I guess my first thing is, has anybody from the Lake Lanier Homeowner Association approached us in the last 30 days for conversation?
Yeah. Kip Cox is approaching, and we're going to meet.
Okay, I want to be part of that. And,
Absolutely.
Really, I hate going first. No, pretty much I want to thank all our town staff for the job they're doing. Jody's been here 30 years. Dang. What he started, 15?
You remember, I was his principal in college.
How long you been here? But no, I'm glad he's here. He's always done the town a great job. He's one of those people that's out at 3 a.m. if we need him without any questions. I would like some more clarification in the near future on, it's kind of like Chris from Harmon Field, Lake Lanier. Do we own it? Do we control it? Can we set rules and regulations for it? That's really one of my questions. And I think in next year's budget, we have actually set dollars aside to have these questions answered. So, that's it.
Okay, Chris?
Very quickly, thank you to the TDDA and to the Tryon Riding and Hunt Club for sponsoring Tryon Horse Heritage Week. Really looking forward to it. And thank you to the National Trust for beginning the Nina Simone birthplace restoration on Monday, the 29th of May. And lastly, thank you for coming out tonight. Your voice is important.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for coming out, those of you who are diligent in coming out. The streets crew, thank you for touching like on the east side, and helping out with cleanup. Some of those guys came by and they had trash way down in the ravine and the hill, and they're gracious enough to go down and bring it back up the hill. Jamie and all the rest of PDBA, thank you guys for all you do. And that was pretty nice event over the weekend Friday. And congratulations to Tim and Jody. And like I said, thank everybody for coming out. Have a safe trip home.
Okay, I'd just like to thank those that are here. TDDA and Jamie, your work is paying off. You see it, regularly now. Thank you so much. We have our staff, Meg, fine job on our fire chief and police chief back there. We've got, the best, so thank you all. Zach, thank you for all you do and pass it on. Tim, everybody, thank you.
Okay, again, thank everybody for what they do. I talked to the chief, and while some of us the other day were very comfortable in our house when the wind was blowing, I heard chainsaws, and I knew what it was, and I asked him what it was. There were some trees and limbs down that they cleared so EMS and fire truck could get somewhere they could go, and I brag about that all the time, so folks, y'all understand. You're at home safe, and these guys get up and leave their family, and they got a whole $55 a month to be volunteer firemen. And they go out and protect you. And people fuss. Somebody said to me one time, I don't often get upset, but one lady said, they come and put them on the side of the road, why didn't they pick them up? And I said, ma'am, it's because someone else had a tree that they need to get off the road in case an ambulance needs to go down that road. And I think it finally registered.
I heard the siren.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. It worked.
It was, it did.
We were freaked out. I loved it.
We're trying to do something. Say it again, best place in the world to live. That being said, 13 citizen comments. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am. Identify yourself.
My name is Audrey Kendrick. I live in Tryon, and I want to thank the city and town for my sidewalk on Markham. It's done. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. I just got to put that pothole on. Come on. But I'm too great. Well. Thank you.
I'm the victim of the sidewalks. And I want to please ask you to put it on your list to get and make it a priority. And I saw you've got some sidewalks you're working on, but I'm very fortunate to be able to stand here tonight. I'm one of the reruns, by the way, because I hit my head very hard, and I have stitches in my head over this silly sidewalk that needs to be fixed. And I hope that you add it to your list of sidewalks that you're gonna get fixed. The Maple Street sidewalk, because all these old people are coming into the museum and they have difficulties. And I knew somebody was gonna fall. I didn't think it would be me, but it was. And so, but I appreciate everything that y'all do for the community. And I know that you will take care of your citizens and even me. Thank you.
And the lady,
Others?
when would you like to see this?
What?
When would you like to see this done?
When we say like to see it done.
Tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Motion carries. Adjourned.